Be more assertive now. If that's okay with you, that is. Don't be like either of those two. Instead, let's talk about how assertiveness and your mental health go hand in hand. So let's talk about better mental health. Hello and welcome. I'm Jeremy Godwin and I share practical ideas for better mental health every week here and in my podcast, Let's Talk About Mental Health. In this video, I'm talking about assertiveness and mental health, and I'll be sharing what it is, why it matters, and 5 simple ways that you can be more assertive. Plus, there'll be a bonus tip at the end. So let's start with a quick look at what assertiveness is and what it isn't. Those 2 examples I gave at the start of the video, with some Oscar-worthy level acting by myself, well, I think so, they demonstrate aggressiveness and passiveness. And the thing about those 2 approaches is that they are much more extreme ways of behaving, which will probably either annoy and upset other people, or which will tell people that you're completely fine for them to walk all over you. Assertiveness is about being confident and ensuring that your needs are being met in a kind and thoughtful way. And let me say very clearly that anybody who claims they're being assertive when they're actually being rude or unkind to other people are actually being aggressive. You can be assertive without doing harm and while still being kind. And in a moment, I'll give you a few ways to do that. But before we jump to that, let's take a moment to discuss why assertiveness matters for your mental health. And it matters because a lot of our challenges have to do with whether or not our needs are being met. I talk a lot in my videos and in my weekly podcast about doing no harm, being kind, and giving more than you take. And those 3 things apply to how you treat others as well as how you treat yourself. Why? Because life is all about balance. And if your needs aren't being met, then you're out of balance. That doesn't mean that your needs are more important than other people's needs, but it also doesn't mean that their needs are more important than yours. Balance in all things. Assertiveness enables you to state what you need in a firm but fair way. So how do you do that? Well, let's start with tip 1. Start from a place of fairness and respect. Because healthy relationships are about being respectful. Even if that energy isn't coming back to you, that doesn't mean that you try to fight fire with fire, because then all you get is a bigger fire. The point of any conversation is not to win, but to find the best solution for everyone involved. Sometimes that means needing to find a compromise, because we cannot always get everything we want. When you go into any discussion with the goal of finding a mutually agreeable solution instead of trying to win, that means you're more likely to actually find a solution, because you'll be willing to negotiate. And by the way, you cannot control what other people do or say, so don't even try. Instead, focus on your own wants and needs in a fair and respectful way. Again, this is not about winning. So that leads to my next point. Focus on balance. Because good mental health is all about finding and maintaining balance. Assertiveness is about having a healthy balance between what you want and need and what the other person wants and needs. And hopefully I shouldn't have to say this, but please bear in mind here as well that wants and needs do not override basic human rights. The right to be treated with dignity, respect, and common courtesy. For example, I've seen far too many people in cafes and restaurants behaving as though the person waiting on them should bend over backwards to their every whim and desire. And that is not assertiveness, that's entitlement, and it's disrespectful. Using that example, you can ask for what you want or need in a kind and respectful way that is also assertive, such as simply saying, "I ordered fries, however I received a baked potato," without then turning it into a personal attack on you. I mean, the kitchen is not out to get you. When you take that approach, you're more likely to resolve the matter with a minimum amount of fuss. Because honestly, who has time for unnecessary drama in life? Not me. Balance and common courtesy in all things. So my next point is manage your emotions. I'm going to go out on a limb a little bit here and suggest that the majority of conflicts stem from strong emotions turning issues into mega issues. And I talked about dealing with conflict in episode 88 of the Let's Talk About Mental Health podcast, which is linked in the description below. Being assertive means asking for what you need or want in a calm manner. Of course you are going to have feelings. I mean, you're a human being. But emotions are not facts. Actually, I'm going to say that one more time for the people in the back. Emotions are not facts. When you act on pure emotion, you tend to make decisions that are less rational and considered, which in turn tends to lead to issues becoming bigger than they probably need to be. Again, it's all about balance. This time in terms of maintaining a balance between your emotions and your rational, logical mind. Let your emotions guide you because they help you to identify how you feel about things, but don't act on them. Instead, take time to understand what you really want or need and why, and consider your words and actions before you proceed. A little mental preparation can go a very long way. Next, communicate, 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 and then communicate some more. If we bottle up our feelings without dealing with them, they have a habit of becoming much bigger over time. So, communicate early and often to avoid getting to a place of conflict. Other people cannot read your mind, and instead of getting upset because they don't instinctively know what you want or need, tell them. And while you're at it, ask what they need often. By doing both of these things, telling and asking on a regular basis, you're creating a healthier line of communication. And so if and when issues arise, you're able to deal with them quickly because you're not letting problems fester. The only place I want to hear the word fester used is in reference to the Addams family. And so my fifth point is, it's okay to say no. If you say yes to everything that is asked of you, often you'll find yourself so overwhelmed, or you might wind up doing things that you just don't feel comfortable with. It's okay to say no. Just do so with kindness. You don't need to justify yourself either. I think it's helpful to explain why you're saying no if you feel comfortable to do so, because it does help to soften the blow and it provides an understanding of where you're coming from to avoid any miscommunication. But you don't owe anyone an explanation for the choices that you make. Remember what I said before. Do no harm, be kind, and give more than you take. And those things tend to sort out any issues fairly quickly. If you'd like more advice on how to say no, watch this video and you'll find it linked in the description below. So, I said I have a bonus tip, and it is set and maintain healthy boundaries. And no big surprise here because I talk about the idea of boundaries a lot in my videos as well as in my podcast. In fact, I did a whole episode on it, episode 53, which you can find linked in the description. Boundaries simply mean being clear on what you need and setting limits on what you will and won't accept in your life. The healthy boundaries part come in when you stick to your boundaries, because unless you enforce it, a boundary is just an imaginary line. I usually work on a 3 strikes and you're out approach, and I'm fairly assertive about letting people know if and when they've crossed a line with me. And if you're looking for more on assertiveness, I covered the topic in episode 45 of the Let's Talk About Mental Health podcast. Again, it's linked in the episode description below, or you can find it on your favorite podcast service like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. So I hope these tips were helpful. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. And if you made it all the way to the end, leave me a clapping hands emoji. Catch my podcast, Let's Talk About Mental Health, every Sunday for more ways to improve your mental health and well-being. And join me here for new Better Mental Health videos every Wednesday. Click here to subscribe to my channel for more weekly videos, and watch this video next for even more advice for better mental health. Thanks so much for joining me today. Take care and talk to you next time.